All right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for
One Ounce, episode 16. 16. I feel like we just had something that involved 16 recently. Maybe a 16-inning game in which only a single run was scored against the Lycaons.
Yeah.
Mr. Owner, get ready to shell out that cash, because it's going to be a lot.
It was indeed a lot, and you kept putting him on pitcher's mound over and over and over again.
20 times the payouts for this game. I wonder if he'll learn his lesson.
I wonder if what he'll start doing is he'll start switching the payout in between like innings or something. He's like, this next inning is worth this much. Oh no, this inning is worth 20 times less now, you know?
Yeah, tries to see, okay, the batting lineup's good. Okay, yeah. I'm just waiting for the point in which he's like, all right, I can't actually beat Toa, I don't think. I'm just losing more and more money. So I need to try and manipulate Toa into forfeiting his winnings by breaking the contract.
Right.
And of course that will, not work.
That will not work. No,
yeah.
No, it won't. But try as he might, Toa's doing like really well, but like he's getting everything he wants here.
Yep.
But what is the OP hinting at? I feel like
right.
I feel like with the next series of games, if we just kind of have another series and there's not too much focus on that, they could. But I feel like we're coming up at that point in the show where it's like, season's like, 2/3 of the way through. How about we start developing a little bit of what is the reason for him like really wanting all this,
At the very least, I feel like the owner will realize eventually that he'll need to like keep waiting longer in between times of putting Toa on, because otherwise he just won't be able to pay him. Unless he just thinks I can't, and he gives up on that.
Right,
so,
right.
We could go through the season a lot faster if we're just showing the games that Toa plays in.
Yeah. I think also the idea that Toa could theoretically just have a bad day and everything could line up. The stars could be perfectly set up. He could just win it all back. And then he's like, okay, now I'm never putting Toa on the mound again.
Right.
Like it's the gambler's like fallacy of the, no. My luck will
double
eventually
or nothing.
Turn around.
Yeah. I just need to need to make it so that it's like this never happened.
Yeah, I just need to keep playing the house. Eventually, house always wins.
Yep.
So yeah, y'all, without further ado, let's get into this. Oh, hell yeah! Drinks with the boys!
Sweet.
Oh, yes!
Awesome. Yeah, let's see more stuff off the field.
やつは絶対に勝てなかった。筋肉ってやつは消耗するからな。
筋肉？消耗？
実は白岡も最初からそれをほのめかしてたんだよ。ジョンソンは類間世界最速だってね。その類間世界最速の男はなぜ世界最速の男になり得なかったか。そう思って俺は初戦の後、かつて世界最速の男と言われたジョー・ケリガンの資料を見た。
ケリガンは言った。そもそも人間の下半身の筋肉には100メートルを走り切る10秒もの時間、スタートして前半3分の1は加速領域。大事なことは推進力を大腿四頭筋に集中させること。
Localized muscle usage.
そしてその限界に近づいて緩やかに体を起こしながら推進力の主役を大腿筋膜腸筋。
Oh hell yeah! That's baseball muscles too.
そう。ケリガンの言うことが本当なら消耗するんだ。最速の筋肉ってやつは出塁、盗塁、そして守備。
Yeah, the defending is another part of it too.
Gotcha.
結果は思った通り。
Yep, slightly increasing times, yeah.
徐々にタイムが落ちてる。
And we're talking hundredths of a second.
Right, but if, you're dealing with only like 0.02 or 0.03 seconds to determine whether he can steal home.
ジョンソンをデッドボールで出した後、煽るように盗塁させた。やつの筋肉を消耗させるためにな。
Cool.
すごい。なんてやつだ特徴は。
Shit.
やることなすことすべてに抜かりがない。しかしつくづく感心するよ。お前には。
Yes.
これで他球団のジョンソンへの脅威はかなり払拭されただろう。だがお前だからできたこと。波のピッチャーには。
だったら残るもう一つの必勝の策を打つまでさ。何言って。わかんねえの？ あんた本気で勝負ってもんと向かい合ってるの。
Oh, I think I know what he's hinting at.
ああ、呆れる。ぬるい。
There's some really dirty things you can do in baseball.
そんなのじゃペナントも取れねえよ。
Yeah, that's true because we haven't seen many runs scored for the Lycaons from Kojima.
Yeah. Oh shit.
どういうことだ。俺からの指示を再三無視して。でも
Right, I did everything right.
結局自分の采配で勝ったとでも思っているのか。今後も俺の指示に従わないつもりか。チームのため。
Oh, you could get fired here, dude.
面白い。そんなに自信は。
Oh, okay.
Oh, brilliant.
That's a really clever way of not telling him about the 1-ounce contract, but
俺は一切指示しない。お前の好きなように采配しろ。だがもし負け越したらペナルティとして年俸 50%
And what if he wins?
カット。そしてこれまで通り俺の指示に従うこと。
Actually, I like this. But what does he get if he wins? Yeah.
yeah. I'm guessing he just won't give him orders anymore.
So he's not wanting to watch the game.
飲み物買ってくる。
Oh, okay.
ジョンソンだぞ。いいのか。
Eh, don't need
ねえ
to.
よ。
I've watched enough of that dude over the last, few days.
The owner?
どうして今ジョンソンが。
ジョンソン同点のホームスチールを決めましたが、クロスプレーの際、ジョンソンとキャッチャー、双方が負傷する。
Oh,
Yep,
shit.
yep. This is what I was. Uh huh.
いいプレーです。
Yep. Yep. I was literally.
このキャッチャー。
Yep.
相手の
If you want to win in baseball. Yep.
Oh, shit.
跳ね上がる兆しだ。
Oh shit.
お前が言っていたもう一つの必勝の策っていうのは。
Yep. Play dirty.
足のみで脅威となり得る敵ならば、その足を潰せばいい。
There's other ways to do it too, but yep. Oh fuck.
俺はこれを待ってたのさ。
Oh.
こういうゾクゾク
Okay.
するために
All right. And this could be a fun way to get into his
no.
backstory a bit too, maybe.
Wait.
Wait.
Like owner, manager, or what have you.
君がどうやってチームを強くしたかもね。
脅しですか。私もあなたに関することは何でも知っている。
All it deals with them that seems one-sided in their
本
favor.
当に
Yeah.
口を潰していいんですね。
Wow.
Shit.
Okay.
Dude.
徳地がミーティングに参加してら。 気張るんじゃねえか。
Right.
そしてもう一つの共通点が動員力の割に強くない。そう言われたのも3年前までだ。
Oh.
Okay.
New owner. Yeah.
Alright.
Here we go.
メジャー並みの本格
Or
天然
coach
芝
to
球
toe
場
it. Yeah.
神戸マーズスタジアムの建設。
Ah.
Okay.
Okay.
フィ
Yeah.
ールドの
Yeah.
広さ、手入れされた芝生、スタンドの広い椅子、通算877本塁打、17度の本塁打を。
Oh my
これは
god.
メジャーにも並ぶものがない不滅の記録だ。そして3番目の改革。若い外国人選手の大量補充。才能ある選手を大量に日本に連れてきて、ベースボールではなく野球のエキスパートとして育てる。競争に勝ち残った者のみにメジャー並みの年俸が与えられるとあって、どの選手も必死だ。野手のペドロ・ロドリゴと投手のスコット・ウィリアムス。
Gotcha. Defensive.
Alright.
ロドリゴは
Nice.
マリナーズの主砲ブロッコリンも
Oh no.
パワーを持って
God
いて
damn.
変化球を極端に苦手としたため向こうでは
Okay,
ず
okay.
飛ばず。
Yeah.
難しく考えるな。変化球が打てないなら捨てればいいだけさ。それだけだ、ロドリゴ。
そう彼は変化球を捨てる技術。
And then he just crushes everything else. Yeah. Gotcha.
スコット・ウィリアムス
Trick
は
Stadium
ブル
though.
ーマーズのリリーフエースだ。彼の武器は何と言ってもこれ。
Oh, a knuckleball.
ストライク。
A true
なん
knuckleball.
だ今の。
Holy shit.
All
人差し
right.
指、中指、
Uh-huh.
薬指の先を
So hard to throw.
弾き出すように投げる変化球。
Look at that. That doesn't even seem
Yeah.
possible, right?
Right. How would you make that? Yeah.
Look at that's how it moves. That's how it
Yeah.
moves.
Yeah. And how do you hit something like that?
見ただろ今。球が揺れるんだぜ。
Yeah. Knuckleballs are one of the most fun pitches to watch happen.
Gotcha,
because Mariners are number 1, right?
Okay.
Yeah, here it is. Whoa, that's
a big difference.
Yeah, there's some shenanigans going on as well.
I
mean, what if it was just like the fan cheering or something like that?
Yep.
Which
throws them off.
5球団は全日程の 90% 以上を人工芝でやるのに対し
There could be other things involved in there as well. Or and stuff.
That would be crazy. Yes, see it.
Yeah. Now he's watching the games and stuff. Okay.
And he's probably watching the home games versus the away games to compare.
Right.
臭くてしょうがない。
Sussy Baka.
はっきり言ってこいつらの野球はイカ様だらけだ。こいつらのプレー、挙動、何もかもが不自然すぎる。
They're all aware of it, yeah.
おそらくイカ様は恐ろしく大胆に、そして組織的に行われている。
Yeah.
Okay.
俺はそういうの全然嫌いじゃねえぜ。向こうがそう来るなら逆に騙し返してやろうじゃねえか。
選手の打球の行方にはくれぐれもご注意ください。
Are the bats funky as well? Jesus.
Wow.
Yeah, I think the bats are funky. Yeah.
今日はよろしくお願いします。
お願いします。
ブルーマーズの選手たちは試合前には必ず挨拶に。
They touch them in any way?
今日のワンナウ付け役、レートはどうなってるんでしょう。
そのままさ。
Yeah.
ワンアウト500万。1失点5000万。はあ。今日は様子見だよ。42億を確実に消す方法を発見した。
Okay.
Shit.
Sure you want to be bragging about that?
よく読んだらこの中にきっちり必勝の策は書かれてあったのだ。
He still has to play according to the contract.
Yeah. Did you notice the ball was pitched directly back at the pitcher in the batting practice?
得地は確実に俺の犬だ。
Oh, sure.
All right.
双方の先発投手とも立ち上がり制球に苦しみ、序盤から壮絶な。
All right, just a high-scoring game in general.
連中の動きに何か気づいたことがあったか。
こいつら打つね。やたらめったら。
ああ、ロドリゴの影に隠れがちだが、このチームのバッティングは極めてシュアだ。
打った。打球は左中間真っ二つ。二者生還。
Okay.
ロドリゴ貴重なタイムリーツーベースヒット。いった。
Out of the park.
Damn. Okay.
豪快なツーランでブルーマーズあっという間に3点差。
Oh shit.
ああ大きい。しかしこれはファール
Oh,
です。
okay. Foul ball.
惜しくも左に切れるファール。
So maybe he worked on that weakness and doesn't have it anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. He's got a real good eye for him.
No. No.
It's not an out even if you earn a strike.
But some people won't swing as often on 3-1. That's why he's talking about this.
Sure.
And he swings. What?
Off of that?
一時は7点も開いた得点差ですが、ブルーマーズ8回ついに追いつきました。
これは面白くなってきたじゃないか。
Ace. And the coach will do it.
Right, because
he's not getting orders.
Right.
So he's trying to. The other team is trying to set up the scenario by which they're like, "Oh, we need to change pitchers now."
Right.
Okay.
Cool.
Good setup.
I like it.
Yeah. Oh, I love this.
All right.
Oh, we're getting into it.
I've been waiting for the knuckleball to show up.
Yeah, the knuckleball.
It's a cool pitch.
And also the cheating team. This is something that every not like professional sports player, because I don't know any really, but like every sports player that's played a sport for more than 10 years will tell you there's always a dark underbelly to that sport.
Right.
Where
what can you get away with?
Players will specifically coordinate as a team to do things that they know they can get away with.
Right. It's in a similar, like, it's not cheating, but like when you see the bits of like the soccer players where like someone goes up behind them and flicks them and they freak out and hold their leg.
Fake an injury, yeah.
Fake an injury, right? Yeah. Because that's just sort of what you got to do, right? You know, that's part of the meta of the game. Okay, you know.
Yeah. Is it something that is literally a blight, in my opinion, on the sports themselves? It can be.
Sure.
Yeah. I would say that one of the things that's been rather ridiculous when it comes to a lot of these sports that have contact rules specifically is the kind of ways in which, because of the lack of usually like the umpire equivalent, you know, the refs or what have you being in specific areas, is that you end up in these matches where it is clear that refs were literally paid to let things happen. And it's so common that it's a joke. Like, that's the very obvious kind of cheating where the joke is like, where are you looking, ref? You know, in every single sport, right?
Yeah, well, and so much so that it's almost a cliche in sports fiction, you know?
Right. And in some ways, weirdly enough, because of how baseball works, it's very hard to have the where are you looking ref outside of at home plate with regards to where the pitches are thrown. This is where things actually are, I would say, rather like much better in terms of baseball.
Right, because it's the most you could do is like, oh, is that a strike or a ball? Like, you get to the umpire and then it's like, you know, there may be a bit lenient with the other team or something.
Right, but generally speaking, there are at least 3 umpires on the field at any given point. One at third base, first base, and home plate.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool.
And the first and third base ones kind of provide a cross-reference for each other. Home, I believe, is just there for home. And sometimes, and this is the thing I was going to bring up, sometimes they have an umpire, I believe, at second base, but it's actually very rare because balls are going to be hit into that area.
Yeah, because the ones on the sides, you need to be able to call the foul balls, and then the one at home to figure out, like, strikes and things.
No, foul balls, you don't need them there for that.
Oh, okay.
It's very clear when it's a foul ball and when it's not.
Gotcha.
But this is the thing I was going to bring up. There's an area that can be very easy to set up cheating and or dirty plays for the fielders, which is basically the classic stepping or cleating somebody's like Achilles at second base. Because if there's not an umpire that's super close, you can get away basically with, as you run on second, and this sometimes happens at first, the players will step on the back of someone's foot, basically, like intentionally, and it shreds their Achilles, and it's almost threatening career-ending like injury.
I can imagine that would be. Yeah.
And on first base, it's kind of easier to do it as well because they're stepping on the base a little bit and leaning out, but you can run through the base with no consequence. So there's so many dirty things that they could bring up in this series of games. I'm worried for Toa's team because this is going to turn him into not just a I'm going to cheat back at you kind of person, but a person where he'll have to protect his own team from their cheating.
The game itself will not be what's at stake.
Right.
Like in a similar way, I feel like to how in like some of the other series that they've played, it's been the whole thing of like, okay, we're playing this game, but we're actually doing this to set up the next game. You could absolutely have that here from the other team's angle, where it's the, who cares if you win the first game? We took out 3 of your best players. They won't be able to play for the rest of the season, potentially.
And they might not even have to do that, given that their stadium is somehow set up to be a trick stadium. And I'm excited to learn about that, because it feels like that they were setting up basically a lot of things here by giving us little bits of disparate information.
And I loved the idea of like, hey, theoretically, even though it seems like there might be more than this, it could just be that it's grass field versus turf. So you get, if half of your games are are half of your games home games?
Generally, yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
It's 50% away, 50% home. It's not always the case, but
but you do that, and so then your team has an advantage because they're used to playing on these games half the time. The other teams generally don't. So then they come in here, they're not used to it. Okay, cool. They end up playing a little bit worse. and you're able to use that to your advantage and win.
Yeah, this happens at our home field football for the NFL here, the Seahawks, and one of the things that they have is a stadium that was specifically designed for the acoustics of the stadium, noises of the fans and what have you, to basically create what's now called the Legion of Boom, which isn't really a thing now. It was a specific era of defense for the Seahawks that was near perfect.
Right.
And what was going on during that time was the fans would cheer louder during the points when the other team was on offense there, and the sound would be so loud that it would disrupt the quarterback and the offense in general a little bit.
I think I remember reading an article, I can't remember if it was like a serious article or not, but saying that the sounds of the stadium actually started setting off earthquake sensors because it was so thunderous.
Yeah, and this is also combined with the fact that the Seahawks were really
good.
That time,
yeah,
so more people were showing up,
and they hadn't been good in a while. So the fans are coming out of the woodwork. But like, I'm very curious to see how this kind of stuff comes into play, given that they've got a lot of money behind them now. Because when I think about like, if you're going to build a whole new stadium for a team that hasn't really been doing well, that's a big investment in general, right?
Yeah,
you're not necessarily going to see those certainly not right away.
Hundreds of millions of dollars, I would say.
Yeah, some ridiculous amount of money, but
it might be closer to like 50 million, but we'll see.
Right. Who knows? We don't know off the top of our head how much a stadium costs, but especially if it's like, brand new and all these luxury things and stuff, that could get pricey real quick. What's the business angle of the return on the investment? Because also if they're doing something where they end up making some part of it illegally helpful for their team, if your brand new stadium is determined, illegal, right? And that sounds like a big cost, right? That you won't necessarily want to pay. So what are the ways in which they skirt the line? What are the ways in which they cross the line?
Yeah, we'll see that for sure. The main thing that I think about with the cash infusion for the stadium is that there might be some kind of thing where story-wise, this is more of a meta observation than an actual story foreshadowing thing, because it would take more info to set this up, is the idea that since our main character is kind of a bad boy in some ways, I've been waiting for them to go into the potential criminal element of this story in some ways, in which Toa himself might owe some bad people a lot of money, and that's why he needs all this money. Or it's the idea that, we're just seeing some other people that are in debt to a larger force, which forces them to do things a bit desperately. So it's a parallel theming in which the owner might just have, basically grabbed some corporation and been like, hey, we will give you this kind of return on investment if you sponsor a new stadium for this team. I will do anything to win.
Sure.
Therefore, you can be guaranteed this return on investment in X amount of years.
Right. And mobs versus corporation, does it really
matter
at that
no,
point?
No.
You're kind of dealing with the same thing.
I mean, not necessarily. But the point is that the owner is probably motivated to win faster than a typical owner would be, in the same way in which our owner is not necessarily motivated to win, but is motivated to win a certain way with his win-outs contract. So that can be a way in which we build up that whole angle as
and
well.
If that's something that's going to be introduced in this show of like Toa's backstory and his past and things like that, if they do that kind of stuff with the other team, that would be the perfect opportunity to bring it up with Toa.
To set up a
there is a definite possibility that they take Toa down the route of kind of what they've been doing so far, of the iconic main character, where it's he doesn't necessarily need to grow or develop as a person. He's Sherlock Holmes. He's the cowboy that that comes
Sherlock
in
Holmes
and then rides off into
way
the
to
sunset.
Describe it, really. That's perfect.
And more modern Sherlock Holmes, they've changed that and stuff. But where it's yes, he will figure this out because he's Sherlock Holmes. It's going to be really cool to see him do it, and then it's all about how, right?
And every once in a while, he'll come up against something where he has to really study and think about this and be like,
use 2% of his power.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right. And this is one of those examples where he's like, oh, cool. This is going to be exciting. Now, I will say the most immediate problem here is the Lycaons don't have a great team. They, as a whole, are somewhat being carried by Toa.
And this is shown by the fact that in the games that Toa plays, they still have a problem getting runs. It makes it much more interesting for us, the audience, and for Toa, right? Because then it's all about the pitcher. He has to keep them locked down. But the fact that they even have someone who is supposed to be a cleanup batter, and yet Kojima is not really getting runs. He's not. No,
he's just doing his normal thing. He is when it counts. But yeah, he's not a superstar. He's not. He's not like the Mariners one guy.
Exactly. He's a very good player, but not the kind of player that can carry a team. And that was established at the beginning of the show with the idea that, hey, he has this big dream, win the pennant and everything, and yet his team is still doing terribly.
Right. So now that we have a setup where the other team shows that they have two superstars, which hilariously are their cleanup hitter and their pitcher.
Right.
That's not their starter pitcher. It's like, wow, I wonder who they're paralleled with. But then also the idea that every single member of their team is not only aware of the cheating, but they are organizing the cheating.
Yeah.
And the fact that Toa can smell it, he's like, this is some bullshit.
Right.
Means that Toa will have to coordinate his entire team around this to counter this, because he cannot then, by extension, solo carry his team to victory here, because Toa has not just the one-outs contract to worry about. As he plays more and more games with the Lycaons, he needs to earn their trust and in some ways kind of have them help him with this whole situation here, because he doesn't want to have a setup with the shortstop from back then,
right,
where someone can get bought and be like, I need you to intentionally sabotage Toa for me.
Yeah, the most impressive things that Toa has done, I would say, other than just his pitching in general, because yes, that's very impressive, is the way that he's been able to lead the team.
Yeah, he's very good at that.
Even though he's someone that isn't necessarily going to be sticking around. This might just be a thing for the 1 year, all of these things, and how like confident he is in his own abilities, the ability to, on top of that, kind of take a back seat when you need to and be like, okay, so here's what we need to do in this situation in order to win. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
How will he? I fully believe that his team trusts him enough to seriously consider if he says we need to cheat. But when it comes to actually crossing the line of just playing dirty versus like, no, we're actually going to do things that could jeopardize our careers or whatever, right? Well, I'm curious how the team will respond to that.
At the beginning here, I don't think that they need to cheat. I think it's just you need to be aware how the other team is cheating and counter it.
Sure.
You don't need to cheat back. Generally speaking, I would say Kojima's character is one that will probably have an aversion to cheating.
Right.
But just like we saw in the beginning of the show, he also really, really, really wants to win. And if it means a little bit of a little bit of shenanigans, not necessarily cheating per se.
He learned that he is willing to fight dirty when pushed to it, right?
Right.
The dead ball is not an illegal move,
No, that's common. That's a tactical move.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But that was something that he had to do. That was not the straightforward, honorable thing of I will outbat you, right?
Right.
I will beat your pitches, the normal way. So what will they bring out here? We'll have to see. But yeah, I think this is a very good opportunity for Kojima to get more focused so that we can see exactly how much he's retained that lesson, because Toa was kind of reminding him of it in the beginning of the episode.
Yeah, and let's bring up Johnson now, because he was at the beginning basically to show that when the Bugaboos faced this team, the what are they called? The blue...
The blue something. Yeah.
Yeah, Blue Star or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, let's see here. They are...
Blue Mars.
Blue Mars, okay. So, they had their catcher, in trying to tag out Johnson, drive his elbow into the back of his leg in order to cause a fracture.
Yep.
That's not just, like, cheating. That's something that, if caught, would be, like, enormous fines, lawsuit, whole bunch of other things.
Yep.
So, if that's what they're willing to do to win, and it's that brazen, as Toa would say, it's like frighteningly bold. Like it's the kind of thing where he's like, oh shit, like this isn't like your regular little like subtle cheating where it's like in some ways the stuff I described in the beginning of the discussion, that's kind of the subtle cheating.
Sure.
The more brazen cheating is when you're like,
it's the Karate Kid, take him out, that kind of stuff.
No, that's in some ways the subtle cheating.
Oh.
I'm talking about the thing where it's just no, I'm practically going to end this person's career intentionally like they did right here.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just I'm going to, slightly hurt you, or I'm going to deadball you in the head, but I'm going to aim for your face, It's really, really like, ugh. So I feel like they're also introducing the players that aren't Toa in a more calm, non-baseball environment to build up the emotional attachment to us, the audience, so that when one of them gets really badly hurt, it's you did not touch so-and-so.
Oh, yeah. I'm waiting for there to be some point. I don't know how they would get into a situation. Now, the catcher literally wears, like, body armor and stuff.
The catcher is the hardest to do this to, yeah.
Right. But, like, if you were to take someone else, like that...
Well, Toa, for instance.
Well, yeah. Toa's the obvious one. He's target number one, but thankfully he grew up on the streets. He was able to suss out the cheating pretty quickly. He'll hopefully see that coming.
So there's throwing bats.
Mm-hmm.
I let go of my bat, and you swing it directly at the pitcher.
Sure. Their batter seems to be trying to hit the pitcher with the ball.
You can get good enough at hitting that you want to hit it directly back at the pitcher.
But that's also something where it's like, how many times can you try that without succeeding before they're like, hey, you're obviously, aiming these hits.
Yeah, that one they could never really call.
Oh, yeah?
They probably could never call that, yeah.
Gotcha.
It'd be very hard. Because I don't think most players are good enough to do that. And also a pitcher that's just good enough could just catch it, jump, dodge. Like, I think pitchers also who are experienced are used to the ball's coming right at me, and they just move to the side.
Yeah, because when I think about it like that, the actual making contact, okay, that seems potentially problematic.
Yeah.
But the potential getting in their head of like, this ball's going to be coming right back at you, so you better be ready to go into avoidance mode right after the pitch.
Right.
That I could see that being something that could maybe make the pitcher hesitate or like just not be focused when they're actually making the throw. But yeah.
I want to address the way in which they greeted everybody. I think there's something there.
So like beyond just camouflaging.
Well, beyond just camouflaging, but also in combination with the fact that this is their stadium.
Right, because like the idea of camouflage, okay, cool. I could see that working really well on other teams where they don't already suspect them of cheating.
Yeah.
But in this case, I feel like it just bought them the first cheat because Toa already told them, hey, by the way, these guys are going to be cheating. Once they do something that the other team is able to notice, I feel like they won't dismiss it because they've already been dismissing Toa. And then they'll be like, oh shit, you're right. I guess they are,
Because when I think about the times in which coaches... Okay, so this is the thing I was kind of saving for the discussion as well. When I played baseball, I was from the ages of like 10 to 17, basically. Once things went into like the college era, I was just not good enough. I was just not good enough, and there was no way I was going to be able to play outside of like rec leagues and stuff. So, as I got older, from like 15, 16, 17, coaches started to gain reputations. And it was just this thing that you knew that, this is a coach that has like a 7 out of 10 with regards to, I would say, playing clean. Every coach usually had something that was notorious about them for doing that's not considered to be nice, I guess is the...
Sure.
And it goes from niceness to like literally playing dirty. And everyone would just kind of know this, like the other coaches and stuff, but you would never actually see the really like dirty things. You would more just hear stories about the times when they kind of got away with it.
Okay.
Because everyone talks about these kinds of things. The players are totally aware of what's going on.
Yeah, even if it passes under the radar when it happens, right?
Exactly.
And they don't get called out for it or whatever.
You can't prove that it was malicious because it's more of a
people will still know.
Like the player that experienced it knows that it happened, but they can't,
your word against theirs. How do you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You can't prove it in that regard. But one of the things that was very, very common was psychological pressure, and it would come from not on the field, but it would come from outside the field.
And how would they apply stuff like that?
Well, it's the equivalent of basically being like, oh, it's like in the movie where you rough the person up at the lockers before the game.
Oh, gotcha.
And it's the kind of thing where if this stadium is one where they've got a trick going here, the players are going to be at the stadium for a long period of time.
Oh, shoot. Yeah.
Exactly. And there's shit that you could do that's not on the field, that's in the dugout or in the lockers or in the area there, where it's like, oh shit, like,
yeah, theoretical. Well, and also if you're talking about something off the field, then you could use people that aren't players.
Exactly.
So if they like
fans,
there's things like what they did with Johnson, where they have one of their players actually do the deed. Okay, cool. Yeah. But like, what if they got and that's something that they could pretend was, an accident or whatever, right? They're not culpable for it.
Yeah.
But if theoretically it got to the point where it's like, okay, take a lead pipe and there's here's a way to get into their locker,
Right. I wasn't meaning something that overt though.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying the movie equivalent of it would be, where it's like this is a dramatic scene.
Right, exactly.
But I'm talking about something as slow and it's like invisible as something like having weird grass seed at the fields, but something more along the lines of, the water that they all take or what have you is spiked. Like I'm talking like really, really, really invisibly subtle. Like
now I'm thinking of like Grand Blue put spiritus in their water.
I mean, yeah, sure, totally. But like
this is probably where that kind of comedy came from.
Right, exactly. But like having also, like I think Toa is probably the best example of where he kind of just gets away with this as well. But he talks a lot to the other players when he's on the field, right? Like
sure.
He very much is trying to get in their heads in that regard. There's ways which you can get in players' heads that have nothing to do with the field in that regard. And that's something where I feel like the stadium could be involved in that.
Yeah, and I think this in general is something where it's more of the stuff that it's the thing that we've wanted to see of, let's see more stuff off the field, right? The stuff that we got at the beginning of this episode was fantastic for
they went more into
I wish they went more into that too, because that's the kind of stuff that will really make us feel like we know and understand these characters and the team, which will then heighten the stakes of when we're on the field, right? Yeah. So far up until then, it had been like 100% field focused kind of thing, with the exception of Kojima at the very beginning. So if we get to like an 80-20, that would be my ideal kind of situation for it. Yeah,
because right now I'm pretty sure I know that the catcher's name is Itagechi.
Yes,
but I'm not even 100% sure on that. I might be mixing him up with one of the other players. For right now, I remember their positions. That's about it.
Right,
and it's Kojima and Toa. But even there, see what I mean? This is not a sports anime for the team.
Exactly,
but it could become one slightly in this series here,
right?
Because the ways in which you cheat, generally, they're not going to affect the pitcher. The pitcher is probably the safest because no one runs to a pitcher's base, no one charges the pitcher's mound without getting thrown out of the game,
right? And probably stopped by the, all the other players on their team that are on the field already,
right? Yeah. In terms of safety, in some ways, they're even safer than the catcher, because at the very least,
there's a reason the catcher needs body armor.
Well, right, but the pitcher doesn't even bat.
Oh.
So they won't even go out onto the field. The catcher will bat. Pitchers don't.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, we've actually shown like multiple times that the only time Toa went up to like bat, like did he go up to bat when he was a first baseman?
He might have. Yeah. I think he did.
He did, yeah.
I think he did, yeah, because they had rotated him to first base,
right,
and then And then he went up to bat like the one time.
Yeah. Okay. So, but yeah, that's its own like whole thing there. Mm-hmm. So, all right, let's have a cheating team. Let's have ourselves some mind games fuckery and also just some fuckery. Like, I mean,
right. Fuckery in general, I feel like is this show's style. So, let's see it.
And let's see the owner in contact with the other owner and seeing how that little setup was established.
Well, yeah, there's that, but then also the owner and the manager. I'm very curious to see how that goes. I'm guessing the stakes for the manager, if he wins, is just that the owner will not, like, he's not his dog anymore, like he's out basically. But I'm really rooting for him. I want him to succeed. I want him to succeed too, to win, But yeah.
And in some ways, that's Toa's long game he's playing with the owner, is that he's like, I'm going to take even your coach away from you.
Right. Since you can't tell anyone about the contract, I'm just going to make it so that the people that you have influence over, regardless of the contract, that number gets fewer and fewer.
Yeah, he's isolating him.
Yeah.
I'm excited for this. But y'all, thank you so much for watching this episode's reaction and discussion. If you want to see the next episode's reaction and discussion right now, though, go check out the link in the description below for our Patreon. You can get an early access there. You can watch full-length timer reactions there, and all this comes with Discord access, so you can chat with us in the community there about this show, about anime in general, and also be sure to check out our Twitch channel.
We stream every weekday. The info's in the description.
Yes, if any of that interests you, we'll see you there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all
next time.